You know, it's really interesting. There's this thing, Joe Biden, I think, has been running for president still kind of mentally in 1995, thinks he could Donald Trump us by saying up is down, down is up, 2 plus 2 equals 5. And nobody's going to go look. He doesn't realize there's this thing called Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and, apps and all this stuff where people can find the things he said over a 30-year career. It's truly astounding. So, right on cue, as Bernie Sanders, right after Bernie Sanders apologized, which he shouldn't have. Sorry, Bernie bros and girls. I don't think he should have apologized. Right on cue, Joe Biden did an attack ad on Bernie Sanders, saying Bernie's campaign, with the scary music. Bernie's campaign is sending out distorted, edited videos on Joe's record and blah, 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 and all this garbage. So credit to Bernie Sanders. Instead of, bowing down further, Bernie came back strong with, I think, a very effective digital ad, which has 3 million views right now. If you haven't seen it, here it is.
When I argued that we should freeze federal spending, I meant Social Security as well. I meant Medicare and Medicaid. I meant veterans benefits. I meant every single solitary thing in the government. And I not only tried it once, I tried it twice, I tried it a third time, and I tried it a fourth time.
Well, we've got some bad news for them. We are not going to cut Social Security. We're going to expand benefits.
Can I just say, whoever's doing the ads for Bernie Sanders' campaign, when you're done with that, if you wouldn't mind maybe doing an ad for Status Coup, we love you. So these ads are terrific. That is a great ad. So that has up to 3 million views on the Twitter. The record is the record. I mean, what are you going to do? And by the way, I personally think Bernie's campaign, obviously their polling is probably showing that Social Security is a really winning issue for them. And seniors care, number 1 or 2 about their Social Security. So that's why they're hammering. Joe Biden, where does he go? He can't come back with a lot of advertisements showing Bernie Sanders calling to cut Social Security or calling to cut Medicare or calling to cut food stamps or calling to go to war, all these things. It doesn't exist. So what is he doing? He's going to the comfy confines of Morning Joe. His friends, Joe and Mika. He's running to Morning Joe to fluff his pillow and protect poor old Joe. Middle-class Joe needs to go to Morning Joe to get his, head patted and rubbed.
Calling you corrupt. They also put out that clip that misrepresented your position when talking about Paul Ryan. Clearly you were mocking Paul Ryan and being facetious. But just last night, I want to put up a tweet from Bernie Sanders. He wrote this: to you, let's be honest, Joe. One of us fought for decades to cut Social Security. One of us didn't. But don't take it from me, take it from you. They include there a video clip, a statement you made on the Senate floor in 1995 where you were talking about freezing federal spending, including Social Security. So it's not just surrogates, and he can complain, but it's coming from the principal himself. They think they have an issue with you on Social Security. So once and for all, will you cut Social Security benefits if you become president?
No, 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 no. And we weren't talking about cutting them either then. That was trying to figure out how we got through a debacle where the whole government didn't shut down. And so, look, I find it amazing that we go back and look at statements, many of them, most of them take them out of context of 10, 20, 30, 35 years ago. It's like my going back and pointing out how Bernie voted against the Brady bill 5 times, always trying to get it passed when he was at the House, or how he voted to, protect gun manufacturers as the only group in America you can't sue. I mean, he's made up for that. He's indicated that was passed. But if you want to talk about things that are really different, my support for Social Security has been solid my entire career. I did join with a lot of other Democrats to make sure we fixed Social Security, quote unquote, made it solvent during the Reagan years. But look, it's all about making sure we have, we have one real obligation as to the very, as Hubert Humphrey said, the youngest among us and the oldest among us. That's real, and I've never walked away from that.
Did you think these attacks from the Sanders campaign are dishonest?
What I don't want to do is start to characterize them. I accept the apology, and I hope we'll argue in the facts.
So that was the equivalent. That was the equivalent of a campaign manager dressing in a suit, putting some makeup on, and interviewing their candidate. I mean, that was the softest of softballs I've ever seen. So let me do what Willie Guy shouldn't have done. I doubt it has anything to do with the fact that MSNBC's parent company, Comcast, did fundraisers for Joe Biden. Its top lobbyist is doing fundraisers for Joe Biden. Comcast has poured in hundreds of millions of dollars to kill net neutrality. And oh, by the way, Joe Biden's not on the record in support of net neutrality. Nothing to do with that. I'm sure Willie just, went out partying too hard last night. So maybe instead of asking Joe Biden, do you promise not to cut Social Security, you could just, do a basic Google search and ask him, well, what do you have to say about the times you've called to means test Social Security? That's a cut. What do you have to do with the times you've said we should maybe raise the retirement age? That's a cut. Instead of this logistic theatrics, it's now the principal saying it. It's now Bernie saying it, not just his campaign. Why don't you actually focus on the fact that this progressive has called to take away, not an entitlement because we pay into it, something that has been earned by the working class people he claims to be fighting for. Why don't you ask him about the several times, not just that clip that was deceptively edited. It wasn't deceptively edited. The times he said it in the 1980s, the 1990s, the 2000s. The fact that, as Sam Stein of the Daily Beast pointed out, Joe Biden is literally, as vice president to Barack Obama, was negotiating on behalf of Obama with Mitch McConnell, with Paul Ryan, to put Social Security on the table as part of a, quote, grand bargain. This is public record. Even the most establishment of the establishment journalists acknowledge this. But they can't argue on the merits, and that's why, in my view, since Joe Biden is under fire for his terrible neoliberal record, that's why you see Hillary Clinton climbing down from Wokeback Mountain and trying and attacking Bernie Sanders. Thank you, Colin Tooley, with the amazing graphic. Maybe we'll put Hillary Clinton and some other figures at the top. Wokeback Mountain. It's unbelievable. Joe Biden cannot defend the record. So the corporate media is basically hiding that record. They are hiding his record from the American people, particularly the old people that are being hoodwinked into voting for him. You don't think that as soon as Joe Biden becomes president, we're not going to start hearing about a grand bargain again? You don't think as soon as Joe Biden becomes president, the deficit hawks are going to come? Please. So Joe Biden was, again, asked about this. Bernie Sanders campaign is going after you on Social Security. And, I mean, kind of an unhinged response today, if you ask me. Let's take a look.
Yesterday you said you accepted Bernie's apology, and now you're attacking him. Why are you doing that?
Go.
Why wasn't his apology enough, Mr. Vice President?
Right this way, sir.
Why attack Sanders?
Why? You're getting nervous, man. Just calm down. It's okay. He apologized for saying that I was corrupt. He didn't say anything about whether or not I was telling the truth about Social Security.
Thank you guys. We gotta do
So I don't really know what's better. Joe Biden's, that bat face he made. He doesn't only like touching women and sniffing little girls' hair. He also likes shaking male reporters. So at least he's an equal opportunity weirdo. But I don't know what was more creepy. Joe Biden's face or that reporter, like, are you okay, dude? I mean, that reporter, I would argue this is ridiculous. Stop asking questions about, the food fight. He apologized. Why are you attacking him? This is a primary. Would reporters stop focusing on, oh, this is, not so nice, and oh, this is not proper etiquette in this town, and oh. How about you start focusing on the record, the issues? So, putting that aside, the reporter wasn't like, it was a reporter yelling because you're trying to get your question over other reporters' questions. I've done it many, many times. And Joe Biden turns around like a real weirdo and like, why? First of all, I'm going to be honest with you. And I am not trying to be funny. I am trying to be honest here. Okay? A thought came to my mind earlier. Is it possible that Joe Biden truly doesn't remember what he has said in the past about Social Security? I'm not saying this to mock him, and I'm not saying it to be funny. It's more likely that he knows fully well that he's been a warrior for entitlement cuts and this and that. But to me, judging by the mental decline that I've been talking about for 6 months now, that the corporate media won't say out loud, but is obvious to anybody who has two eyes and a brain, is it possible he really doesn't remember things he said in the past? I just don't know. I don't know. But the guy is coming off unhinged. And, you could go to Morning Joe, you could go to all these places and try to get, protection and this and that. But I believe there actually are more senior citizens, and I'm not saying all senior citizens are establishment. We got a lot of older viewers that watch us, but there are actually older viewers that are on Twitter, that are on Facebook, that are on the internet. So they might not, that ad that Bernie put out that has 3 million views on Twitter, it's getting picked up by other news outlets. So they might not see it on Twitter, but they're seeing it on other news sites that people 50 and above, 60 and above might read. Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.